Live. The chicken has been marinated. Let's do our usual tests, guys. We'll do the audio test and we'll get going. We got Kenny Howard in the chat, Zugbeats in the chat, Yako back again. Nice to see Yako. The first keyword might be related to marinated chicken. It's possible. That is a good keyword. It was not a euphemism. I was preparing my chicken. I was not jerking the chicken, if you know what I mean there. It's pretty on the nose. Yeah, let me know in the chat. Jedi Govna. Oh, Groutmeister's in here. All right, so the mic level, I assume, is good. Let's do a little testeroo of the audio in the Discord. So let me quickly play a beat. And we'll make sure. Oh wait, let me mute the mic first, and then I'll do that to make sure we got optimum audio quality. And the mic is back on. So let me know if the audio quality is good. Sue says it's fine. Ishu Beats, what's going on? I'm gonna have a good day today. We're gonna have a lovely stream. Jedi says it's good. Pretty good. Better, says Grout. So I did, yeah, much better now after I muted, I assume. So Catalyst, he's in here. That was his beat. So we're gonna have a nice, lovely stream full of smiles and kisses. As you guys know, Space Laser Boy's in here. The instructions right above my head, as usual. If you guys want to submit and have your beats reviewed, send it to the email above. And the keyword we will start off with is duffel bag. That will be the first keyword. Duffel bag. Let me know how your guys' Black Friday was. What'd you guys buy? I got me a nice new camera, which I will be using for my YouTubery going forward. Hopefully that will improve some quality. Got me a new TV. You guys can see right behind me. That's fun. That's a fun little gadget. I plan on watching Mad Max after the stream's done. So it's going to be a lovely evening for me. And yeah, we'll start off with the first Discord beat review. We had a sexy amount of submissions here. You know what? I've made a decision here. As many of you guys know, a very committed community member of ours, Kemi, he's been struggling recently with his porn addiction. It's been somewhat bad. His parents and I have been talking about getting him into rehab. So you know what, let's listen to his beat. We'll try to encourage him to play around with beats instead of beating off, because that guy's got a problem. Is his, Kemi, did you submit in here? Where's your beat? I thought he said he's gonna submit in here. Maybe he put it into the Discord or the email. So let me pop in and see where Kemi's beat is. And if I can't find it, probably just not gonna bother. The duffel bags are coming in. Oh, Kyle Beats emailed me. 2 clicks and it's 50% off. Kemi, where are you? Is he even in here? I saw him in here earlier. He stopped right above mine before. Bane is in here. Good to see him. Kenny Howard. Kemi, is your beat in here? I don't know how to search by user. Kemi. Let's see if this works. It did not work. Discord, get your stuff together. Come on now. All right, we'll get to Kemi's eventually. Let's just start off. Whoa, look at this little thumbnail. Let's take a listen to this beat because it made me laugh. Kemi, email your thing over and I'll listen to your beat. we'll start off with this little ditty right here, the Neuralink type beat by Geisha. So let's take a listen, and you guys in the chat, give us your opinions too. Sometimes you guys do say some really poignant stuff that I sort of overlook. So please do give your opinion in the chat, and don't be a rude dude though. Be nice. So let's start off with this Neuralink type beat. All right, guys, that was Geisha's beat, the Neuralink type beat. Definitely got uploaded into my brain like a Neuralink does. The review of my beat, a lot of you guys said you liked the beat in the chat. Kemi says Geisha's beats are sick. She's been a frequent of the channel. I will say for my review, let me quickly write down my last thoughts here. Really cool beat, very unique direction for the beat. I like the idea of it, very dark and very sort of aggressive feeling. The drum textures that were used in this beat, really great. I really loved the sounds that you used in the beat overall. It was very unique, which is something I always like to hear. When the beat first started to play, it felt very maximalist. There were sounds that took up a lot of room in the beat. And then once the beat minimized, I felt it was really great at that point. Once you got into the verse section of the overall structure, I really loved how the beat felt. And so I think overall for that hook section, maybe taking that Asian instrument that you had in there, I'm not sure if it was a Kyoto or whatever it was, maybe reducing the amount of space that took up in the beat might have been a play. either reducing the amount of frequencies it took up or not having it be as in the foreground as it was, maybe pushing it back so it's a little bit more of a secondary texture, just because there were a lot of tones in the beat that were very much in the foreground. The bass was like very in your face and very dry. It had a lot of the mid and higher textures in it, and so it took up a lot of room in the beat. So I think maybe taking some of the other textures and making them a little bit more secondary might have been a good idea. Throughout the beat, I really loved the transition noises at the end of each of the loops. Whether it's like a 4-bar loop or an 8-bar loop, I wasn't sure, but nonetheless, you had that transition sound and you did that effect where like it got wetter and wetter, and then right at the end of the loop, it got completely dry and it sort of spilled over into the next beginning loop. That was a cool idea. That's something I like to do as well. Really unique. Some of the things that people said in the chat were Nate Flex said more hi-hats would have been welcomed. Yeah, I guess it depends solely on what the artist, a potential artist, would do with the beat. I sort of did feel like there was a little bit of room that could have been filled up using hi-hats, but nonetheless, if a rapper was to use this beat, that might have filled up the space as well, so it's hard to say whether that would have been something that would be required. Sue in the chat said playing around with the velocities for the snare would have been a good idea. I think that is something that I might agree with. Not the sort of anchor points for the snares, not the ones that sit on the 2 and the 4, but you did have those snare rolls at the end of, I think it's every 4 or 8 bars. And so either playing with the velocity of like that snare roll, or maybe just changing the pitch slightly, even a few cents for certain notes, just to have the snare roll sound a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more live sounding, instead of just the exact same snare playing 3 times in a row. So that's something that a small detail. Catalyst mentioned that the volume of the beat was very up front and in your face. That's sort of something that I think having a constant bass, this is something I said in past streams, having a constant upfront bass is going to be very taxing on a listener. So maybe even during certain bars, just cutting out the bass or coming up with a pattern where the bass doesn't show up at certain parts, maybe that could have been something that could have helped. But I sort of feel like at this point I'm sort of getting into the weeds of it. I know Geisha is a very talented producer. This is a very great beat in my opinion, a very awesome way to start off the stream. I really love the beat, and a lot of the stuff that I've been mentioning here is sort of small details to sort of help push her along maybe. But nonetheless, awesome beat. Well done to Geisha. I know you guys liked it in the chats. What else are you guys saying? Someone else said something here. This fella says he appreciates how serious I take the stream. Well, I want to make sure to give you guys good information and not just give half-assed criticisms and whatnot. I know you guys take the time out of your day to show up, and so I want to make sure I actually take the time and give some good information that all you guys can learn from, even if it isn't your beat that's being reviewed. Geisha does logo design. She designed Ian McKay's logo. So hit up Geisha in the Discord if you want your logo designed. I feel like this camera is like leaning towards one side. Hold on, guys. That made it even worse. I'm a fool, guys. There we go. I'm centered now. All right, so let's move on to the next Duffel Bag Beats. TS is laughing out loud in the chat. I always like to see laughs and smiles and kisses. We got this beat here. Oh, this young fella is in the Discord, so I'll slap the link in there. It's from Music Pro Svit, the first person to submit the Duffel Bag Beats. Whoa, I forgot to close down submissions. Let me quickly do that here. Closed. I can't remember, why did we switch over to email in the first place? Why don't I just stick to Discord again? Someone in the chat remind me what went wrong when we tried to do everything from here. I think people were submitting with keywords and they weren't showing up or duplicated or something. I think that's what happened. What's this fella's name again? Music Pro Svit. Music Pro. Holy smokes, I can't even type. There he is. Old Music Pro, he's got this NF type beat, Apocalypse, dark cinematic. All right, guys, let's take a listen. I'm about to watch. Hey, what the hell's going on here? I thought I closed this down. Oh, I goofed up, guys. I'm sorry. There we go. All right, where the hell did it go? Let's take a listen to this beat here. All right, that was Music Pro's Vitz beat, very dark and apocalyptic. My review of the beat, there are things about this beat that I liked, some things that sort of stuck out to me. I like the synth bass that was used in the beat and the vocal sample. A lot of the smaller textures in the beat were really cool. And a lot of the percussion noises that were used instead of just your straightforward hi-hat, those were really unique and cool as well. I think some of the stuff that's sort of stuck out. Also want to make sure to note that I agree with Nate Flex, what he said in the chat. Great clean mix. I think this beat did a great job, or the beat maker did a great job of really separating all the sounds, making sure all the sounds have their own unique space. It really did sound like a very clean and very meticulously mixed beat. In terms of some of the stuff on the production side, some of the techniques that were used, the strings in the beat, while what was created was a really cool idea, a really cool concept, coming up with real live sounding strings, something that sounds authentic, is really, really tough. And I think one of the things that was missed in terms of the technique used to come up with the strings to really help them be a little bit more improved were the exact same things that were missed with the drums, to have them be a little bit more improved as well. Because with the drums, there was a wonkiness that was the producer tried to achieve a little bit of a wonkiness with the drums. And that's not inherently a bad thing, but I think something that really gets overlooked sometimes is just how important playing around with the velocity and playing around with the different volume of each of the different notes in your beat really can improve the how the beat sounds overall. So with the drums here, there was a lot of wonkiness, but I think what really would have helped the drums not stick out as much and be a little bit more in the pocket is if you take some of the more irregular sounds and just maybe reduce how much volume there is. So there is still a presence in the beat, but it won't stick out and be as much of a sort of sore thumb in the beat overall. Same thing with some of the percussive noises. You use a lot of cool, unique sounds, but having them play at the exact same consistent velocity, it's sort of cheapened the beat a tiny bit. And so when you try to do a sort of unique style or unique technique, such as like a little bit more of a wonky sound, paying attention to the smaller details is going to be really important. Every single time you deviate off the norm and try to do something different, it becomes a lot harder for whatever sounds you use to fit into the beat. And so you got to make sure you do everything right, because you're sort of going off the beaten path. And it's going to be a lot harder for the beat to sound good and still sound normal and still work with the listener if you don't pay attention to some of the smaller details, if you try to do a out there technique. And I think with a technique that was sort of missed, or the small detail that was missed throughout this beat, was just playing around with the velocity basically. I think that would have helped improve the strings. I think that also would have helped improve the drums. But nonetheless, like I said, there were some really cool ideas in the beat. I really liked what he was going for. I would say if this was going to be sent off to an artist, I'm not sure how this would get used. This does really feel like something that would be used in like a movie trailer or something. If this was sent to an artist, like the amount of space that would be available for the artist is really minimal in here, just because there was just a lot going on. And so that's something that you might want to consider if you're trying to work with an artist. It's a really difficult thing to sort of get across what your beat's intention is with a minimal amount of sounds, just so there's still enough room for the artist to work with. That's one of the real big challenges of beat making and producing. So that's one thing you might want to keep in mind. And one of the smaller details, again, is the velocity. But overall, really cool idea. I really liked the intent behind the beat. And so yeah, it's just some of the smaller details I think could help improve this beat overall. What are you cutie boys saying in the chat here? I think Yako asked a question before, but I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, he asked what I used to marinate my chicken. I just threw some pesto in there and some dried onions. We'll see what happens. I have no idea how to cook, so I might make a mess of myself. Someone being a meanie boy? Is Kenny Howard being a jerk again? I remember last time he was being a jerky boy. So let me know in the chat if Kenny's being a jerky boy. Kenny, stop being a jerky boy if you are being a jerky boy. Next beat here, we will listen to, there he is, there's Kemi. Sind Kemi, that's his name. He did not give a link to, wait, what's going on here? GTA 5 heist on December 15th. I'm not sure why he wanted me to announce that to everyone, but there's a GTA heist on December 15th. This is Kemi's beat that he submitted for his Cymatics contest. So let's take a listen, called Ayo, What's Up Boys. So Kemi, I'm not sure, is this the first time I'm listening to one of your beats on stream? I don't know. Either way, let's take a listen.
Take the sword.
The sword?
Come on, give him the sword.
It's already over. What are you lovely boys saying in the chat here? Let's see who flipped the sample better. This beat is hard, says Ant. Jedi Govna, I think you said I'm skipping crazy amounts of beats. I'm just trying to do it randomly. So the way it works is the first person to submit the keyword, I'll listen to their beat, and then I go into my email, which is not shown on screen right now. That's why I always tell people, if you submit to my email, add your Discord name so I can submit that to the Discord so people can see who did what beat, and maybe you'll get some additional attention. But nonetheless, after the first person who submits, I just go randomly at that point. So just the way it is. I know it sucks. I know Matthew Jameson, I'm not sure why I said Matthew, says his beat's never been played. I'm sorry, man. It's just the way it is. I literally have hundreds of people submitting every single time. So eventually, hopefully I'll get to your beat. I hope to hear all your guys' beats, because you guys, there's some real talent in this community. I'll say that much. On to the review here for Chemi Meister. The main idea of the beat was really cool. I really liked the loop. I'm not sure how much manipulation was done from the loop, but whatever you came up with here, very nice. The secondary sounds that were used, actually pretty much most of the sounds that were used in this beat were really nice sounding. The percussion that you had, that sort of reverb percussion, was really nice. The drum sounds that you chose, it worked really well with the beat. The drum pattern that you came up with executed really well. I think it really fit perfectly with what the loop was doing, and you really came with a cool energy based on how you created both of those components, the loop as well as the drum pattern. I think there were a couple of things that sort of stuck out to me. The amount of distortion you had on the 808 and it constantly playing at the exact same level sort of, I guess, stuck out to me. Something that I sort of battle with at times. In the video I'm actually coming out with on Tuesday, it's one of the things I briefly mentioned. Having the exact same sound play at the exact same level throughout the entire beat can really wear down a listener's ear. And so with this distortion, maybe controlling it so it plays at the very beginning of the 808 and it sort of tapers off. That might have been a good strategy here, because it constantly playing at the exact same level. If this was like a beat that played for 3 minutes, that could have been something that really wore down the ear. So that's something you might want to pay attention to. And as other people in the chat said, the chatty boy said, I think the counter melody, the secondary thing that you came up with, well, I'm not sure if it was a piano or something, it sounded like the sounds were out of tune. So you might want to change those notes. I'm not sure how that sound would have sounded in the beat if it were played at the right notes. It was a unique texture, and I'm always for that. It sounded like you might have sampled something else and put that on top. I'm not sure what happened here. It was a cool, unique texture. It was just played with the wrong notes. So those are two things that you might want to consider. Chemi Boy, he's bragging in the chat, talking about how he mixes in mono, trying to show off to all the girls, because everyone knows girls like guys who mix in mono. So yeah, you know what, Chemi, he's always in the Discord, always chatting it up. I'm not sure whether I've heard any of his beats, but he's a talented young boy, you know. It's just a shame he's gonna be a porn addict his whole life. Moving on, we've got a beat here from, there we go, Kevin Ding. I don't think I've heard Kevy Boy's beats before, but he is in the Discord, so I'm gonna slap this into the Discord for all of us to see. We've got, what the hell's going on in this picture? I'm gonna get demonetized and thrown off of YouTube if I don't delete this, guys. Jeez Louise. Some of you guys. HV. There he is. We've got his beat here. Trevor Daniel, Keshi type beat. HML. R&B beat. This is going to be interesting. So let's take a listen. That was a quick beat. I'm still writing down my thoughts here. So just like many of the people in the chat said, like Khaled and Bane, you guys know how much I love my guitar beats. I'm just being a silly boy, Kev Dog, and this might be your first time, but I typically don't really go for the guitar type beats just because it's so prevalent right now. And I like to hear when my audience sort of pushes boundaries and tries to do something a little bit more unique. That's something I always encourage. And so I'll put that out there, and I'll critique the beat on the other elements in the beat. One of the things that's really, I guess, worth pointing out here that I think a lot of guys could, I guess, take note. The 808 pattern here was really well done to me. So one of the things that a lot of producers will do is just constantly have the 808 playing throughout the entire beat, and then they'll get those wacky, crazy 808 slides at the end of the loop, and they'll just go like 2 octaves higher. To me, this beat was a really great display of just being subtle and very deliberate with your 808 and not have it overwhelm the beat. He had certain pockets in the beat where the 808 wasn't playing at all, and he let the other components in the beat have their opportunity to shine through, and the 808 didn't overwhelm and like flood the beat completely. And he did a good job of picking and choosing the spots where the 808 did play. And there were slides in the 808, but they were done really, really well, and they were not overbearing whatsoever, and they made sense musically. It wasn't just like a small little wacky effect just thrown in just because you see a lot of people use slides. It was done musically and with deliberation, so I really applaud Kevy Boy for doing that. I will say, like I mentioned, the guitar type beats not my favorite thing. I would have liked more additional textures in the beat overall nonetheless. The beat was very guitar focused, and the few times that you had like additional textures come in, like that small vocal sample thrown way back in the beat, I really like those small little ideas. I would have liked to hear some more of those little things come through in and out the beat, just because the large majority of the beat was just the guitar as well as, the 808 and the drums. So, I'll say some things that were really done well were the 808s, and the drum pattern was nice. I just would have liked to hear some more unique things in this beat overall. Some things that really, I want to hear what you guys do artistically. It's one thing to make a beat that everyone else is doing and be a more, what am I trying to say here? When you first start out, you're just trying to imitate the things that you like. So I'm not going to bash you guys if you're just starting out and you're doing beats that sound like what's popular right now. That's pretty much expected. Just know that eventually down the line, I hope that you guys that do like very popular types of beats start exploring and doing things that are a little bit more unique to you and sort of define you as an artist, just because, these guitar type beats are a dime a dozen. And if you just make guitar type beats, or if you just follow the thing that's popular at the moment all the time, it's going to be very hard for you to establish what your value is and have artists look to you as someone who can do a very specific thing or do something that's a lot better than everyone else. If you have a beat that's a guitar type beat, for example, in my opinion, no matter how good of a beat it is, you're putting yourself in a situation where you're highly replaceable. And that's something that you never want to do, just because if you get to the point where, let's say you have a good song that comes out and you do start demanding more money, for example, for your beats, time and time again, this has happened in the industry for the last 5 years. Like, I can't think of the artist who's come along that's really established themselves and really done a good job of maintaining longevity compared to someone like back in the days, Pharrell, Timbaland. These are guys that were very unique in their approach, and I just sort of feel like we have less and less of that happening. And I think it's partly due to this type of effect where you make a very good song, there's guys that are going to be coming along, they make great songs, it's a huge hit, and then they start charging or wanting to charge a lot of money. And the way a lot of the labels and artists view producers is, well, why would I pay $10,000 for one of your beats when I have a bunch of guys charging 10, 20, 50, $100. I could literally buy like 50, 100 beats from these people, and one of them might be a hit just because when this artist who's charging $10,000 came up with their hit, they were charging 50, $100 as well. So, if you're making a highly replaceable, highly substitutable product, it's going to be a lot harder for you to, I guess, establish any sort of longevity. But obviously, this is something that's not going to be relevant for someone who's just starting. Just know down the line that things are going to get tough if you don't push yourself artistically and really carve out a sort of singular place for yourself amongst the different production zeitgeist. That was a long rant that had very little to do with actual beat critiques. Sorry about that, but sometimes I just gotta let my the gums flap sometimes. Let's listen to Sia Machine. They've got this beat here. They're not in the Discord, I don't think, but there's a beat called World We Live In. Let's take a listen to Sia Machine. All right, that was Sia Machine's beat, World We Live In. This was a sort of tough one to really critique. It sounds like someone who's just started making beats, and so I'm gonna try to keep that in mind. Honestly, this feels like the advice I give to everyone who just starts out. To me, the beat really felt somewhat middling, and what I mean by that is it didn't really feel like. I have a hard time grasping what this beat was going for. It had elements of being like a lo-fi beat. It had elements of being like a boom bap beat. But there's a sort of inconsistency with all the textures and sounds that were chosen. So it was a hard time for me to really understand what was this artist going for and what they were trying to get across as an end result. Even with the music components in the beat, they didn't really stand out to me as like evocative, trying to evoke any particular emotion. And that's what I mean by it sort of feels middling, where it's sort of hard to understand what I'm supposed to take away from the beat. And so I would say if you are someone who's just starting out, work on coming up with a very convincing loop, the first main idea. So it sounds like to me with this beat, you just had those two basic chords, and then you threw some drums on top, and then you thought, well, maybe this beat will come together and this beat will sort of make sense if I start arranging it and start to throw different elements on top of the beat. maybe at that point the beat might sound like it'll come together. And that's something I used to do when I first started making beats, and I sort of eventually started making a lot better beats when I just stuck to improving the main loop, the main conceit of the idea, and making sure the idea is actually getting across what I want it to get across before I move on to arranging. Just because if the idea is having a sort of tough time convincing the audience member exactly what it is, if it's just playing for the 6 seconds that it is for the loop, you're probably not going to be able to find that idea in the arrangement part of the beat once it's 3 minutes long. So that's what I would say to see a machine. Just work on the fundamental loop. Try to come up with a convincing idea and don't even worry about arranging for now. Jedi Govna, I already addressed what I said here. He keeps saying I skipped a ton of beats. I told you I go randomly, and I'm not doing this in the Discord. I'm just looking at the emails right now. So we've been doing the Duffel Bag beats for half an hour now. We will do one more Discord beat, and then we'll move on to the next keyword. See, a machine is in here. Yeah, it might suck to hear. Obviously, everyone wants to get a good positive critique of their beat. And so when I come with a less positive review, it might suck to hear, but hopefully what I said is something that will be good for you in the long term. So yeah. Yako says, I think you have a troll. Who's trolling in here? I have zero patience for trolling. All right, so let's listen to another Discord beat, and then the next keyword is indeed going to be zeitgeist, because I saw a lot of people say, what the hell does that even mean? You know what, figure it out, and that's going to be the next the next keyword, zeitgeist. The next Discord beat we'll take a listen to is this one right here. It's not the sickest beat, so that's not a good start, because I do want to hear the sickest beat that you have. This is a beat by Huhei called Wonderland. It is a trap beat. We got Alice sitting right here, so let's take a listen. All right, that was Huhei's beat, Wonderland. Guys, we got a celebrity in the chat, young sexy man Simon Servita. Welcome to him. I've been getting emails about his course. The course is closing down soon, once again, his Black Friday deal. So jump on that if you guys want to learn about music theory. I'm sure his course is excellent. He's a great teacher. So yeah, shout out to Simon. The beat review, I think what I will say is, wait, did I turn on my mic? Or am I not? Yeah, I did. All right, so like I said in the earlier review of that other beat, using string samples can be really tough to make them sound organic and natural. And I think that's what one of the components in this beat that sort of kept it from being what it could have been. The main sample, it sounded very artificial. It didn't really feel like it felt very novice, basically. It felt like a very stock preset that was just used. So it didn't really feel like it brought a good... can't even speak English right now. I just didn't feel like it was a texture that really helped the beat overall and made the beat suffer a little bit. And additionally, the way that the texture was used was a little bit more of an issue as well. So you guys could hear in one part of the overall loop, it was playing at a certain octave. And then to create some variation, you guys could hear the producer play those exact same notes, but in a higher octave. And that's a good strategy if you want to create variation, but you also have to consider what's happening in your overall frequency range of the beat, because the beat overall wasn't the most dense, and that sound that he was using was a huge component in the beat. It was a huge focal point. And so once he switched it up to go into a higher octave, that basically created a gap in where it used to be. And so as a listener, I was used to hearing a certain frequency range of the beat, and all of a sudden when he does switch it up, at that point, it almost feels like there's a gap left in that part of the beat. And so doing that type of technique, you sort of have to consider, well, what is changing about the song's fundamental frequency range? And you have to sort of do a good job of filling that space to make sure the beat doesn't sound unbalanced at that point. The drum pattern was nice enough in the beat. The low end, I think, could have used more punch to it, but I do think the biggest culprit of the beat is that string sample, I think. Honestly, if you guys just start out, I'd say stay away from strings. That's something that I rarely use just because it's so hard to get them to sound actually good and sound like they fit a beat. I watch like tutorials on like how to make string samples or string sounds sound good and actually real. You got to layer those things like 10 different layers of strings just to get them to sound authentic sometimes. So yeah, just using one preset and thinking this is going to make the beat sound full and interesting. Just stay away from strings, guys. That's what I'll say for now. That's a big boy play. What the keyword is, Victor Rivera, is zeitgeist. So yeah, pop in zeitgeist. And let's take a listen to some of these zeitgeist beats. Whoa, you guys spelled them really well. I was thinking there's going to be a lot more misspelling. But you know what? We know exactly why this is. It's because Grout helped you guys with your spelling. Shout out to Grout once again. The legend himself always has my back. Mega sexy boy. Ian MacKaye was the first one to submit the zeitgeist. I just poked myself with my pen, guys. That really hurt. Ooh. All right, he's got this Castles beat, so let's pop it into the Discord. And let's listen to young Ian's beat here. How do I copy this again? Copy link address. Guys, I know how to compute. I've been having computers computing. Castles by Ian MacKaye. Here we go. All right, that was an adventure. That was Ian MacKay's beat called Castles. Really interesting what happened with this beat. So it's going to be a tale of two halves here. So with the first half, a lot of the people in the chat were trying to put their thumb on what was exactly didn't really work in terms of the drums. Some people said it was a bit too wonky. Other people said certain sounds were off. To me, I guess in the first half of the beat, we'll just take this half by half here. I thought the intention here was it was going to be a lo-fi beat. He had the main loop, the piano loop was very lo-fi sounding. It was very dark and very saturated, very warm. He also had the rain sound in the background, so I thought, okay, this is going to be a lo-fi beat. And to me, the reason why the drums were a little bit off to everyone, they didn't really work, was because not only were the textures a little bit strange in that he used trappish hi-hats, the way the way the sounds sat on top of the main loop and the sort of lo-fi idea didn't necessarily work just because those sounds were very clean. Like the textures, like the tambourine, the clap, the shaker, they were very clean sounds and they had a lot of brightness to them. They had a lot of definition to them, so it didn't really sit with the lo-fi intent underneath it. But I think the reason why Ian MacKay did that was because his idea in the second half of the beat, he basically brought a lot of those textures back and just made a fucking awesome beat. Basically, that second half of the beat was insane to me. That was one of the best beats I think I've heard on this live stream that I've been doing. So I think if he just made that second beat the beat, I think that would have been a cool beat. And the first half of the beat, I think a lot of people felt was a little bit disjointed. And so maybe just getting rid of that first half and just making the second idea, the entire idea of the beat. I get you probably wanted to take a little cool switch up, and I think it was very... the context really helped just because that was such a hard beat compared to what I was initially playing. But I think the second half of the beat was so good it could just sat on its own and still be a great beat. So you might want to think that. And I also think the mix of having to make sure the levels of the first half of the beat still match the second half, that might have hurt the second half of the beat, if anything, because I sort of do feel like the second half of the beat, while the idea was great, a small little thing that could improve the beat might have been optimizing the mix. But just because you had to consider what the first half of the beat was doing, that might have held you back. So Ian MacKay, I will say, that's an excellent beat. I would have liked to hear that second half of the beat be the whole thing, because that would have been super cool. What are you guys chatting about in the chat? Expand 2 affordable, but a lot of great sounds. That's a true statement, guys. If you're doing some Black Friday shopping, Expand 2 is probably the best thing you could buy if you're just a beginning producer, if you're using FL Studio, because a lot of the plugins in FL Studio aren't, I feel like, geared towards beat making. And Expand 2 is like, I got it for like $15 and lots of good sounds in there, a lot of good textures to basically use for beat making. Bad Myron, I'm doing very well, my friend. How are you doing? Let's move on to the next Zeitgeist beat. Well done to Ian MacKay. Let's listen to someone who I haven't heard from before. We've got a lot of international sounding names here. I'm probably not going to even be able to pronounce. Utsav Sapkota. Oh, he's in the Discord, guys. He's got this Bart Simpson type beat. Let's listen to Utsav's beat here. Let me pop it in. Yeah. Juice WRLD, Ian Dior, Kid Laroi. I'm not even sure who that is. I'm an old man. Let's listen to this beat here.
Got that sauce, bitch.
I'm doing a smooth fade out here, guys. You guys already know I'm gonna say in the chat. I feel like it's gonna be the exact same critique I said with the last guitar type beat. This all sounds the same to me personally. Yeah, I have the exact same thing basically. I have nothing to say about this beat. I guess the only thing is the drums are a bit louder than the other one, a bit too loud, I might say. Honestly, this beat doesn't sound any different than the last guitar type beat that I heard here. Yeah, I'm moving on. I'm moving on, guys. And if I hear another guitar type beat, I might have to end my own life. Here we have another beat here from Personage Music, a JID type beat. So this should be a little bit different. The beat's called Shady. Let's take a listen, and I feel like I really hope this isn't a guitar type beat. All right, that was Personage Music. The beat was, what was it called again? Shady. So I think one thing I'll say with this beat, the drum sounds I think here were not the greatest choice, especially with that snare. So with a lot of hip hop, typically the drums are going to be a little bit more in the front and a little bit more dry and a little bit like, relatively speaking to other genres, it's going to be a more of the star of the show type of thing. Whereas the snare here, it felt like it was like a acoustic drum from an actual acoustic drum. It was sitting way back in the mix. And so I think that that might not have been a great choice with that selection. As well, the spatial balance in the beat overall was a bit off. Just like Grout said in the chat, he mentioned that he would have had a... What the... Where'd my Discord go? He would have had a hard time hearing a rapper use this track, and I think a lot of the reason why is just because even though the snare was something that was sitting a little bit further in the back, pretty much every single other element in this beat was like really right in your face. That main loop, I'm not sure whether it was like a guitar, an electric guitar, that was like really in your face. The bass was like really huge and just suffocating almost. And so I think spatially, in terms of where all the different textures sat, in terms of like the foreground, middle ground, background, pretty much nothing were in the sort of secondary behind layers. Pretty much everything was in the foreground except for like the snare, which is oddly enough something that should be in the foreground. So playing with reverb, pushing certain things into the back a little bit more, some of the textures a little bit further back, having them be a little bit more secondary might help, I guess, address that issue. But I think another culprit in this beat was that low end. Is my mic on? It is on. Yeah, the low end was very overwhelming, very muddy, as Ishu said. Yeah, I'm not sure what bass tone that was. You had an acoustic bass play some of the higher notes earlier on in the beat. I'm not sure whether you took that exact same sound and just pitched it down like 2 octaves and then pumped up the distortion. I'm not sure whether that's what you did, but it certainly sounded like it. Try to be a little bit more deliberate with the low end. Try to make sure that's a little bit more clean and not just overpowering. I know it can be something that really entices you to just get really out of control and pump up that low end as much as you can. But you got to try to be a little bit more deliberate, just because, especially with this beat, it just took up so much room and there was basically no room for anything else in this beat. So yeah, that's something that you might want to consider. What's happening in this gosh darn chat room? Check my weird beat, please. Nothing like you'd expect. Oh, maybe I will get to it. Maybe I will. We'll see. We'll do one more Zeitgeist, and then we will move to the next keyword, guys. So let's take a listen to Daniel Pinto. He's got this beat here. Let me slap this into the Discord. What the? What am I doing here? Daniel Pintor. I'm sorry. God damn it. I don't know how to copy and paste. I tell you guys, my keyboard is out of control. Daniel Pintor. El Momento. Let's take a listen.
No me puedo concentrar. Creo que es quien me prende el ca.
Nope, not listening to a rap song. I'm only here for the beats, guys. Sorry if you're thinking I'm gonna listen to your full rap song. Not gonna happen. So let's listen to Delga 2001's beat. Yeah. And what was this guy's name again? Delga. Look at that. I copy and pasted, and the exact same gosh darn thing got put in there. Meaningless freestyle. God damn it, is this another rap song? What is happening right now, guys? Not trying to listen to your rap song right now. Alright. I got this beat here called Fellatio type beat. So hopefully Victor Rivera is going to come through with a good beat here. Hindsight is what it's called. So let's take a listen to this Fellatio type beat. All right, that was Victor's beat there. As some of you guys might have seen, I muted Kenny Howard because he was starting to annoy me. All right, so let's go into this beat here. I think one of the things that stuck out to me was that the main idea was really cool. It really had an aggressive energy to it, and the textures that were used were really great. I think the 808 was just a little bit too overpowering though. They were constantly playing, and this was sort of what I alluded to in the review a couple of times back. When that producer did a good job of spacing the 808s and making sure there was enough room for the other sounds. With Victor's beat here, there was a sort of constant 808 playing, and to me that was a little bit, it wore me down eventually. I think you did a good job of creating that switch up where you reduced the amount of low end there was. You used a synth bass, and I really love that part of the beat, just because a lot the other components in your beat start to shine through. You had some cool sounds come in and out during that section, and the beat really started to feel a little bit more robust. But as soon as the 808 section came back on, I felt like a lot of those little smaller ideas that you had in the beat really had a lot less room to shine through. And I just did not focus on them as much, just because the 808 was just taking up a lot of the room in the beat. So I think that's something you might want to consider, coming up with a different 808 pattern here that might allow for a little bit more room for some of the other elements in the beat. That might have helped, but overall it was a cool beat. I liked the atypical drum thing that you did there with that sort of triplet kick. That was a cool little idea, but yeah, I think if you're gonna improve the beat, I think addressing the 808 might be the first thing I would attack. I am thirsty, guys. Let's listen to another Discord beat. And we will get the other keyword going. The next keyword will be hairspray. You know what, guys? I don't use gel personally. I haven't used gel in like 20 years. I don't like it. I don't like hairsprays. I don't like hair products. I don't like it, guys. But that's what we're going to do this time. It's going to be hairspray is the next keyword. And we're going to listen to Damon's beat here called Nobody Cares. Vocals beat. There better not be raps on here, but yeah. Let's take a listen to Damon's beat here. All right, that was Damon's beat, Nobody Cares. I love this beat. That was a great beat. Great job with the texture selection by Damon here. The vocal texture was awesome, really fit in perfectly. As a lot of you guys said in the chat, which I agree with, the snare or the sound that was used in replacement of the snare was really great. A good amount of reverb on it. It sat very well in the mix overall. Jedi Govna in the chat said the beat was a little bit quiet. I sort of do agree. I think just bring up the levels of the main part of your beat. I guess pretty much everything could have helped here. But that's a sort of small knock, I think, on the production side of things. I can't really think of anything that was bad in this beat. It was pretty much a flawless beat, in my opinion, in terms of what was the intention. Obviously, it was an R&B type of beat, a very moody type of beat, and I think it was executed really, really well. Yako in the chat mentioned that the break didn't have enough going on, that sort of switch up part. I sort of disagree. I think the intent in that section was to sort of minimalize the beat and really bring the energy down. And I think that created a great juxtaposition compared to the verse section where the beat started to get back into it. And I think that section also had enough variation in it and enough deliberation where it wasn't just to the point where I'm just going to turn off a couple of these sounds and let the beat play for the exact same thing and do the exact same thing as before. I sort of felt like with the automation of certain sounds volumes and the way certain textures showed up, there was a deliberation in terms of bringing the energy level down just so you could bring the energy level back up again. So for me, I think that was a really, really awesome beat. We have heard some really great beats with this stream, which I'm happy about. And unfortunately, some guitar type beats as well. But you know what? The yin and the yang, the good and the bad. That's the way it always goes. So let's listen to these Hairspray beats, guys. Holy smokes, that's a lot of submissions. The Hairspray beat, the first submitter of the Hairspray beat was a young boy named Vladilla. Of course, you know him as Fanny in the Discord. Fanny. Let's listen to Fanny's beat here called Chase. All right, that was Fanny's beat, Chase. I think me and the chat are on similar page here. I think a lot of what held this beat back was, I think Isu said in the chat, there's almost like a sense of randomness throughout this entire beat, where there was no deliberate one idea. It was almost like, all right, here's a section with these sounds, and then moving on, I'm going to add some more sounds here, and then moving on, I'm going to do some more sounds here. And there wasn't a sort of focus on, do these sounds work with each other? And especially musically speaking, it sort of felt like there was a randomness to which notes were being played. Like a lot of the stuff that was happening musically with one element, it was like completely different than what was happening musically with another element. So like the bass line wasn't really working musically speaking in terms of the actual notes that were being played with some of the other melodic components in the beat. I think there was one pocket in the beat where everything sort of came together. Let me see if I can find it. So it's that little small area right there where I don't think it's a coincidence. The amount of layers that were in the beat really minimalized, and musically speaking, everything sort of started to make sense. But then as soon as other elements started getting added on, they just sort of did whatever they wanted musically and didn't really consider what was happening with the other elements musically, and that's when things sort of derailed once again. So yeah, I think when you're first starting to make beats, there's almost a sense of, I want to add more layers to this beat, and that's going to be the thing that makes this beat good. That's what makes certain beat makers good, the ability to try to learn how to add more and more and more textures into the beat. And I think that's part of every beat maker's journey. When you first start making beats, you really want to learn how to add more textures into the beat and really improve and make sure you can execute more complex ideas. And so I think that's par for the course for any beat maker where you're trying to learn. You need to learn how to add more and more sounds in. But when you do, make sure to be deliberate and try to understand, am I adding in sounds just for the sake of it, and are these sounds actually helping? Because one of the things I sort of like to do is go back into the beat. Whenever I hear a beat and I listen to it the next morning and it doesn't sound all that great, one of the things I like to do is just go back and mute everything and bring in each and every single layer one by one. And then it'll get to the point where I'll hear a texture. I'm just like, what the fuck is this even doing in the beat? It's not adding anything into the beat. And musically speaking, it's actually getting in the way of other elements in the beat. So that's something that you might want to try here. I just feel like a lot of these textures were just randomly thrown in and didn't really help and probably hindered the beat. So yeah, I think that's something that you might want to think about. But nonetheless, I think one thing I'll say it's a redeeming factor that Matthew Jameson just mentioned. It is an off-kilter beat. It's a unique idea. It's a little bit out there. I sort of like the intent and the attempt at trying to do something that's a little bit more avant-garde. So kudos to you on that front. I just would have liked a little bit more deliberation, and if you're trying to be avant-garde, it is going to be a little bit more difficult to try to put ideas together. Just keep working at it fundamentally, and I think you'll be able to get there eventually. Let's listen to another beat by let's go for someone who I have not heard of before. Foxbear. You know what, maybe this is why it doesn't copy and paste. I'm right clicking and selecting copy link address, but maybe that doesn't actually work. So we got Foxbear's beat. A young fox and a young bear came together to make love, and that's how we got Foxbear. Interspecies relations, guys. It's kind of disgusting. A star is going to be born after this beat. Once we listen to it, we're going to have beauty in our ears. So let's take a listen to Foxbear's beat, A Star.
I tried to stop Nixon, and I stopped him dead in his tracks. I tried to stop the Vietnam War, and I did it. And I was convicted for being the father of this country. And all the things I did without breaking the law. Maybe I haven't done enough. I might be ashamed of that, for not doing enough.
As you get a lot of mail from people who want to follow you still.
Follow me? Did you have any choice? You'll all follow me. I know. You know, you got these people over here that want to live.
What did you do?
I do the best thing I know how. Nothing.
Mr. Emmons, this is a
I
very...
gotta take a Would you excuse me? You got soul in that music, and I said, yeah, I play a little bit, you know. I like it. And they said, man, you're really somebody. I said, oh, I am? Oh, I just got out of jail. I don't know what somebody is. They like my music. They say, man, we want to get you over. I said, get me over for what? They said, we take you down here to Beverly Hills, and we want to get you in with, because you're a star. I said, I'm a what? They said, you're a star. It's you're a star. It's you're a star. It's you're a star. It's you're a star.
All right, that was Fox Bear's beat. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be on an FBI watch list after listening to that. I think really cool main idea in this beat. I really love the main loop. I'm not sure whether that was... Did I unmute my mic? I'm not sure whether that was a loop that you made or whether it was just a random loop, but nonetheless, good sound selection. I really love the main conceit of the beat. The drum pattern was nice. Everything really worked well. There's only one thing that really, I guess, got in the way of the beat's full potential. The 808 pattern, as well as the 808 and how overpowering it was something that was very, it just really was to the detriment of the beat. The notes that you played, the pattern that you came up with, it didn't actually work with the melody of the main loop. You sort of had this progressing 808 where it sounded like it was just going up one note at a time, and those weren't actually the notes that appeared in the loop, and so that's why the 808 notes and it sounded off itself. As well, the kick basically got suffocated and had no room to cut through because the 808 was so overpowering. So whether you want to do side chaining or you want to, I guess, ease up on the 808 and maybe have the kick do a little bit more work, that might have helped as well. So I think those are just the two main things that you might want to go back in and change. If you do, I think this beat would be excellent. I really love the main idea of the beat. It was just those elements that really held it back. Cool idea, cool beat. I really liked it. I'd like to hear more of Fox Bear's beats going forward. Fox Bear, you've done it again, even though I've never heard your beats. All right, we got Aesthetic Jellyfish. Let's listen to this beat. By the way, guys, thank you for showing up. It's always a lovely time coming in here, chatting with you guys. I know exams are probably coming up. You guys are probably stressing out. Some of you guys are probably in the fetal position crying right now. So yeah, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you to Grout, as always, for moderating this and making sure everyone behaves. We will be doing this again in 2 weeks. This is not the end of the stream, but I just want to take this time to thank you guys. And yeah, we got some videos coming up in December. November was a very experimental month. We had that video of me making a beat with no drums. I was pretty sure that video was going to go nowhere, and I was correct. Nonetheless, it was a fun idea to do. So yeah, the next video is going to be about boom bap beat making, which is something that people seem to be excited about in the YouTube poll that I put out. So we'll take a look at that. And yeah, that's all I have to say. What do you guys, we should do like a Q&A or something. You guys slap me with some interesting questions in the chat right now, and we'll get to it for the last little bit here. I feel like ing some cues. So let's listen to Sheena's beat here. And yeah, Kyoto. This is gonna be, hopefully this is an interesting beat. I really love Kyoto by Young Lean. So let's listen to Kyoto by Young Sheen. right, that was Sheena's beat, Kyoto. I think I'll probably be repeating a lot of the things that people said in the chatters. To address Grout's question, I do not watch anime. I used to watch Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid. I think I was like in grade 6, so that would have been in the year 2000, around or late 90s, 2000. And then I eventually got annoyed because they play the same episodes. They'd repeat the thing over and over again. They'd get to like a really cool part, and then they'd repeat the entire season from the very start, and I'd be like, well, what the hell happened? They never, I guess the local TV station never, I guess, bought the rights to like the later season, so I never knew what happened. So I was eventually like, oh, fuck this show. Did I watch any other anime? I tried to watch Ghost in the Shell, the movie, recently, but I can't remember what happened. Or Akira, but I don't know. I just can't get into anime as much. It's not my thing. Another question was about Beat Block. I plan on putting a full video about this. I wrote a whole script about this. So for the person who asked about Beat Block, I will be making a video about that soon. I have some pretty unique things to say. I really haven't seen anyone in the beat making community when it comes to Beat Block say things like this. Most of the advice is just like, take a walk or go to sleep. I think a lot of what happens when you come up with Beat Block is something that's a lot deeper in your head, and it's sort of it's a sort of issue of expectation fundamentally. Beat block occurs when you have an expectation of what you want the beat to sound like and how good you want it to sound, and that is fundamentally where the issue comes from. So yeah, I'll come up with a full video on that, and hopefully that gives you guys some insight. As for the beat itself, Zale said, watch Ghost in the Shell 10, still don't get it. Well, how about this? How about you guys, you anime boys? Let me know what's a good anime, introductory anime, that I should listen or watch. And hopefully it's not Kemi giving his hentai suggestions, because I'm not up for that. Let's get into the beat review. Cool sound selection, really unique idea, really unique textures, very Asian inspired, which is why it's called Kyoto. I would say it's a good job putting all the sounds together. There are some really complex parts of this beat where a lot was going on, and everything sort of tied together musically, which can be a very difficult thing. So good job on that front. I will say a lot of people are saying Hunter x Hunter, One Punch Man for sure. I think someone else has told me to watch that. That's that baldy guy who just punches people, right? Anyways, the thing about this beat that sort of took away from how good it could have been, I would say, is that there are certain parts of the beat where there's almost too many textures in the spotlight. And like I said in the video I put out a while ago, you just cannot have too much sounds competing with each other, and like eventually what's going to happen is like you're going to have a huge wall of sound and nothing is really going to come through. That's exactly what I felt happened during like the hook sections of this beat. If I could play it again. I can't find it, but nonetheless, there's certain parts of the beat where like every single instrument came in, and there wasn't in my opinion, a good enough job of like making a decision of what's going to be the main texture in this beat and having everything else be a little bit more secondary. It does suck. I know this as a beat maker, you do all this hard work to create so many different layers in this beat, and like I said, musically speaking, everything did tie together really well. Texturally speaking, everything made sense, everything sort of tied together, but nonetheless, you sort of do need to pick and choose which sound is going to be the main sound in the spotlight, and really push the other sounds a little bit out of the way, whether that's going to be spatially with a reverb, pushing them a little bit further back, or carving out some very specific frequencies out of those sounds, and just having those sounds do a little bit more of a utilitarian job in the overall frequency space of the beat. So I think that's one of the things that maybe hurt the beat overall. As well, a lot of people said in the chat, I think the low end of the beat could use some fixing. It was just not working in terms of the sound. The 808 really felt strange, and like the kick was almost non-existent. So a little bit more punchiness to the low end is what I would say. It was very bass heavy, bass centric. Those are very, very low frequencies were full, but I sort of think around the sort of 100 hertz, maybe 80 to 100 or 80 to 120 around there. That could have used a little bit more presence in that area. Fat John, huh? What's happened? My Little Monster. These sound like very weeaboo types of animes. Best anime is a Rent-A-Girl. I don't believe you whatsoever. I think that's some sort of a naughty business, and I will not put up with it. So we'll do one more keyword. This one's gonna be a quick one, guys. The keyword is gonna be, you know what? Who's your favorite Dragon Ball Z character? Whoever chooses the Dragon Ball Z character that I liked, I'm gonna listen to their beats. Just for the first one, then I'll listen to the other ones at random, as usual. So submit your favorite Dragon Ball Z character, and I'm gonna take a listen to what you guys submit. Escaflowne, wasn't that like a goth band in the 2000s or something? I got no idea, guys. All I know is after this stream's done, I'm gonna watch Mad Max. So I'm gonna have a good time. Moffat earlier in the stream said that he and I are identical twins. I highly doubt it, because I don't think Jesus would make such a perfect being twice. Yeah, I'm talking about myself, guys. Someone in the chat has already mentioned what my favorite character is, so maybe you guys will get your beat heard. Let's see what we have so far. We've got some Gokus, some Vegetas, Mr. Satan. Was that even a character? Oh, we had one here. Someone got it. The person who got the right answer is Mark Nass. My favorite character was Trunks. I liked that he had white hair when everyone had yellow hair, and I liked his sword. So yeah, I was a Trunks boy. Let's listen to this beat here by Mark Nass. And if you didn't submit Trunks, obviously I'm still gonna listen to your beats. That was just for this first one. His Discord is Mythic, so let's pop that little joker in. Mythic. He's got this little Travis Scott doohickey called Legend. So let's take a listen.
Purchase your tracks today.
right, that was Mythic's beat, Legend. A lot of people in the chatters have some positive things to say. I didn't know Trunks had purple hair. Let me Google image him. I thought it was white. Trunks. It's showing me underwear. That's not what I want to see. Oh, it was purple. What sort of purple, whitish? Come on, guys. I don't know. Anyways, with this beat here, very minimal, which I think it takes balls to do. It's something that's very scary when you're first making beats, where you really minimize the amount of textures in the beat, and you always have that compulsion of, should I add more? Should I do more to this beat? But I think it was very audacious to be a little bit more minimal with this beat, and I think it really paid off. This is a really cool beat, really good job of picking the right sounds and having them do their job, and it really the beat was, there's nothing that stood out that was bad to me, just because every single decision that was made in this beat was a good one, a smart move, and textures were unique. I really love those bells in the beat, or that main, I guess, belly sort of plucky synth. It did a good job of sitting in the beat in the right space. What I might have liked was a little bit of variation. So during the hook section, for example, you had that bass sound in the beginning and the end of the beat. Maybe having that show up for like a little quick bridge or something, or maybe even just a little switch up somewhere in the middle of the beat, that might have been nice. And I think what might have helped the beat is if you just add saturation to that main synth, that main bell. I plan on doing a video on why saturation is just such a helpful tool. But for you guys that don't know, it creates harmonic generation. So what that means is, let's say you have a sound and you say, okay, this is going to be the sound that fills up the mid-range of this beat. Even though it might be a little bit deliberate in where it sits and no other sound sits in that area, what might happen is the sounds, I guess the overall frequency that you choose in that space might not be as full as it could be. So if you open up an EQ, often you'll see like some brighter spots if you use parametric EQ in FL Studio. There's going to be some bands where like it's a little bit brighter, and there's going to be some bands or certain sections in the sounds frequency spectrum that's not going to be as lit up or have as much presence in that frequency space. And what a saturator can do is create harmonics. Basically, it's going to fill up those sounds and create a presence in those pockets of the sound where you don't have as much going on. And that can be really useful in that if you have a sound where you think, okay, this is going to take up the mid-range, fundamentally that sound might not do a good enough job in filling up the entire frequency space. So if, for example, it was a sound that takes up from 500 to 3000, those are like the basic framework or the basic edges of where that sound takes up. Certain pockets in the middle of that bandwidth of 500 to 3000 might not be as full. But if you use saturation, that's going to basically bring some presence into that sound. And so with this bell sound here, it took up a very deliberate space in the frequency spectrum, and I think it did a good job of taking up that space, but maybe adding a little bit more saturation to that space or to that sound is going to do wonders for that sound and helping it fill up that space even more and have the beat be a little bit more full if you do that. So using some amount of saturation on all of my sounds is something I like to do. My beats are a little bit more warm comparatively. I do like having a little bit more of a rough mix, a little bit more of a warm mix, but I still do think that even if you do like a very clean, cold, detached type of mix, adding some saturation is going to be helpful no matter what. Would you saturate the mix bus? So this is something that a lot of people do without even knowing it. So a lot of the people in a lot of other beat makers like to add Soft Clipper on top of their master, and they don't even realize that Soft Clipper is actually a saturation tool. So that's something I actually like to do. I throw on a limiter at the very end, and as I make a beat, I'll actually throw on Soft Clipper as I go along, just so I have a little bit more glue. Basically, it's a sort of it's a tool that can help glue all your sounds together, because the pockets in the entire frequency spectrum of the beat start to feel a little bit more full, and you're going to have less of a detached feeling amongst the different instruments, because pretty much you're going to have harmonic generation throughout the entire beat. A video about getting a vintage mix would be a great idea. Yeah, that might be a good idea, actually. Well, thinking about it, that's exactly what's happening in this video coming out Tuesday on Boom Bap Beats. The idea being how to make actual Boom Bap beats. A lot of people that submit Boom Bap beats, they do a few things wrong in that exact thing. They sort of don't have a good conception of how to create a vintage mix and really have their beat go down that lane of being a little bit more rough, a little bit more warm. And so a lot of what I am going to talk about in that video is how to achieve that exact thing. Yeah, just make sure nothing's gonna clip before putting on soft clipper on the master. Well, that's what the hard limiter is for after the soft clipper, so it can still catch things that have a slight bit of clipping going on, so it just cuts it off so it won't clip. All right, we're gonna do, what time is it? We'll do 2 more beats and then we'll call it a night, because I want to watch Mad Max and I still have my chicken that's marinating right now. So let's listen to this person who guessed. Let's see who's got some wacky guesses here. This person submitted their own favorite character named, was it Broly or Brawly? He was that crazy jacked up one that beat up everyone, right? He's got this beat called Hollows. Let's take a listen to Wraith Brazy's beat. I'm going to put a stop to it there because I think it repeats the same thing over again, and I have an idea of what I'm going to say. Someone in the chat said, I'm going to watch Indian in the Cupboard after. I don't know why that made me laugh, but someone else asked which Mad Max. Fury Road, obviously. Come on. I did watch the older ones, except for the third one. I didn't really like it as much. The second one was kind of cool, but I heard the third one's a real turd, so I will not watch it. Anyways, with this beat, as I mentioned before, everything in this beat is really in the foreground and very bright. That's why everything sounded so loud and very in your face, and that's something that's tempting when you first start out. You want to make your beat as loud as possible, but honestly, like, listen to other people's beats, listen to like more professional beat makers, and sort of compare how that sounds to yours and why yours sounds a little bit different. They're going to be playing around with space, just like what Manup said in the chat, reverbing the hell out of it. Not everything should sit in the foreground. That's just something that you should not be doing. That's something that's going to hurt your beat a lot, just because this beat's very suffocating. Just like Grout said, you couldn't listen to this song for very long, and that's exactly why. It's just very, everything's sort of in your face. It's very overbearing. And so playing around with space and making sure everything's not at full volume, not everything needs to be fully clear, not everything needs to be profound and in the spotlight, like I mentioned. You do need to do a job of picking and choosing. And also, it's very tempting when you're first starting to make beats to have everything sound very bright, and that's oftentimes when you first start making beats, that's what you think is synonymous with what sounds good. So you'll have a lot of frequencies in the high end, and you'll really boost up a lot of those frequencies. To me, I think once you start playing around with cutting a lot of those frequencies out and still trying to get your beat to sound good and still trying to get your beat to sound full, that's when you start to really make improvements in terms of your overall mix and how you choose sounds and how you approach production to begin with. So I would say if you make beats like this, try not to rely on having your sounds be so bright and so polished and so forward. Try to figure out how to make beats where some of the sounds aren't going to be as forward, how to play around with making sounds be a little bit more secondary, and how that can really improve your beat overall. So that's my opinion on that beat. We'll do one more. Like Nate Flex said in the chat, I got a marinated chicken. I got a date with a marinated chicken soon, guys. I'm gonna have some spaghettis with it, maybe. Who knows? I might get wild. So the last beat is from a young boy. A very awful guess for the Dragon Ball Z character, but I'm gonna do it anyways. He guessed Krillin. Who likes Krillin? That's an old baldy guy that like dies every episode, isn't it? Didn't he explode like 30 times over the series? What a weakling that guy was. So we got this beat by Black Tag Beats. blacktagbeats.com. Black Tag Beats. And this beat is called DJ Mustard YG type beat, Taiga type beat, Breezy by Black Tag. Once again, guys, thank you for coming. Hugs and kisses. It's going to be a good December. I hope Santa treats you well and doesn't give you any coal for being a bad boy. So let's listen to this beat. right, that was Black Tag's beat. I think, like he said in his tags, he's going for a DJ Mustard, YG, Tyga type beat. I think he did a good job of pursuing that exact aesthetic or that same direction, musically speaking. It did feel like a very contemporary West Coast type of beat like that. I would say one of the things that was sort of lacking in this beat overall, it was 2.5 minutes, and it felt like the beat was the exact same at 2.5 minutes that it was at 20 seconds. No real variation overall. It felt like the exact same thing over and over again. I think the drums might have dropped during the beat at one point, but overall it wasn't... there was no music variation, no structural variation really. So that sort of hurt the beat. And I also think that the beat was very minimal, but the sounds that were chosen didn't fill up enough of the beat. I think that's another thing that I would say. It sounded like there was two textures working melodically. And so I think taking those sounds and having them fill up a little bit more space in the beat would have helped the beat out. Again, it's just very difficult when you're trying to be a little bit more minimal. With this beat, it was basically just the drums and like a couple of different other sounds. And the drums did a good job of filling up the space in the beat, but I just do think the other elements could be brought up and take up more space, whether that be through adding some reverb or some saturation like I mentioned earlier on, or maybe playing around with where they sit in the frequency spectrum. There was like a small little key, I'm not sure what it was, it was like the same key played over and over again. Having that be a little bit more of a focus in the beat and having that do a little bit more work, a little bit more heavy lifting in the beat might have helped. So yeah, that's my review of this beat. I think it can be improved with some of those small things like I mentioned. Ahmad says, when's the next beat? Next beat stream? 2 weeks. The date will be the 13th. Sunday the 13th. There's going to be a lot of ho-ho-hoing, a lot of Christmas cheer. And yeah, I'll see you guys then. Thank you once again for showing up. You are lovely human beings. And hugs and kisses. Hopefully December is a good month for all of us. And I will see you in December. So yeah, bye-bye guys. See you next time. And hopefully you guys like the